What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. Taking a quick look here at today's price action. Starting on this hourly. Actually, I'll just go to this daily quickly so you can see. This area here is that daily fair value gap. So we spoke yesterday about how we're expecting price to continue to kind of reach for higher prices. This run on stops for us was really just that, right? A run on stops. We expect price to continue bullish. We're not seeing this as a breaker, even though some may be seeing that, right? We're not seeing that as a break in structure. We're simply seeing this as a run on stops, returning into this daily fair value gap to now continue higher. We've closed above this daily fair value gap here, so we would expect it to act as an inversion and continue to print higher prices. As we work down lower, you'll see that this shaded area here is just that daily fair value gap, so remember that. On an hourly, really just spending time inside this 1 hour fair value gap. So after trading into that daily fair value gap first, huge extended run up on Monday. We give a slight retracement just back into some inefficiencies, right? We come back into this 1 hour fair value gap here, hold that before ultimately returning higher. Barely running this high. So we did run this buy side. Kind of want to see a deeper run into that, however, but we'll see what we get after this. 15, a little cleaner. Gonna move this 4 hour for now. And now you'll see really our other key levels popping up here. So remember, this is our 1 hour fair value gap. We'll label that, get our bearings. Really a classic buy day here. So the manipulation under midnight, right? If we're gonna go midnight power of 3, we open here, trade lower, return up into that new week opening gap, as well as the previous day high. If we look on a lower time frame, you'll see as we work inside of here, we get the 830 power of 3 as well, where we manipulate below the 830 price and then continue to deliver higher prices. Here on a 15, we can use this 15-minute fair value gap. We'll move this. So we have this bullish 15-minute fair value gap. All right, we trade into that. After holding this discount, as we create this inefficiency, we can expect that to hold us. Also notice that once we close above this fair value gap here, so we close above this fair value gap with this candle, this now becomes an inversion. So we have an inversion paired with a bullish fair value gap. In an area like this, we would expect to hold. We see that. We then accelerate into internal range liquidity, that first buy side objective. On a lower time frame, this is a 5 minute. So you'll notice as we close above it, we then use that 5 minute as another inversion and just continue to deliver into buy side objectives. So ultimately, we had this buy side here, right? This was the high of the morning. So we hit that buy side. Ultimately, we get into the previous day high. You see we wick that and then just really return into that daily fair value gap on the higher time frame. Real quick, we'll show the 5 minute, clear up some work. So we had this 5 minute inversion. We're going to move this 15 for now. As we come into the 1 hour fair value gap, notice how we're holding the new week opening gap level. We trade up and above this 5 minute fair value gap. We would expect that to become an inversion. More importantly, notice how as we trade up into this 5 minute now fair value gap as well, we're leaving equal highs behind. So we want to see higher prices, and we've left perfectly equal highs here. Right, so following the 930 open, we give an initial pump up, create equal highs, perfect buy side. We then retrace into the inefficiency, right, the inversion fair value gap. From there, we hold and now deliver into that buy side, untouched inefficiencies, and continue to deliver into our buy side objective, which was Monday's high. You'll notice how once we get above this bearish fair value gap now, this acts as an inversion again. So we're getting this here as well, just taking place a second time. We hit the inversion, we get up and through, we come back and tap the inversion again, also hitting that old high, and then we rally up into all those buy side targets. On the 1 minute now, we can really start to break it down. So we'll go to 930, 930 here. So at 929, you'll see that we trade into that new week opening gap the first time. We wick into the new week opening gap, and then at 930, really until about 945, so the first 15 minutes, just consolidating here. This point, we've already mentioned this 5 minute fair value gap. So we wanted to see that 5 minute fair value gap get hit. Notice how we create equal highs here first, and then we retrace to clear out that short-term low that was created prior to 930. So now we've picked up sell side. We have returned into a discount in the form of the new week opening gap. That's that white shaded area. And now we want to wait and see if we can get a reversal to start looking for higher prices, right? This is that power of through that we're talking about, where we have this consolidation prior to 930. We manipulate that, right? Even if we were going to look farther back, all of this consolidation as well, right? So all of this consolidation taking place, we have now ran all the sell side, and we want to see that delivery, the buy side of the curve, to now clear all the highs that were left behind. More importantly, as we head into 930 now, you'll see that little consolidation we're talking about. So we run down to clear that out. What's really important is as we close below this new week opening gap, we leave a bearish fair value gap. If price was bearish, areas like this would hold. So now as we see price immediately push right up and through that, we would expect this becomes an inversion. And now we would want to see this new week opening gap offer us support. So we close above that fair value gap, new week opening gap offer us support, give us a nice entry area. And now we trade up and higher, leaving behind another fair value gap, right? Another opportunity to add positions here before delivering into that buy side objective. You'll notice after we hit this inter-range buy side, as well as that 5-minute fair value gap, we get a retracement to clear now sell side. So you'll see that we're kind of bouncing back and forth, but we're still leaving this protected low here in place. So this is the protected low of the day. This is internal range liquidity. And after hitting this buy side liquidity, it makes sense to return, pick up some sell side, right? Clear a short-term low. Notice we hold perfectly at that new week opening gap. Beautiful precision before ultimately now pushing back up and through this 1 hour fair value gap that we've been playing around and continuing to press higher. As we look now, right? Notice how once we clear this 5-minute fair value gap, we get one quick tap of it. We close above it, one quick tap of it 2 times. And then we don't return into it until we create these sets of equal highs here. So as we head into 1030, we've already done all the work here that we need to do with clearing sell side. We return up into this buy side pool. So we wanted to see these highs be ran because we have equal highs. So once we create this high, we now expect that this is going to be revisited at a later time. Right? We still have bullish bias. Price creating and leaving these equal highs is too suspicious, right? It's an obvious level, especially when it's paired with the 5-minute fair value gap. So this is now a buy side target that we would target. We give a slight retracement. Notice we're simply returning into that 5-minute fair value gap once again. Also this balanced price range, right, from this high to this low. There's really no need to return any lower than this candle's wick, right? So this is the whole range, but really no need to return below this candle here. So as we remove this, you see that's why we leave this whole inefficiency here as a breakaway gap, right? So never returning into that, instead holding at the 5-minute paired with this BPR. Within here now, we can take a quick look. If we notice, right, we create first a short-term low perfectly aligned with the 5-minute. This is now heading into 11. So the 11 or the 1050, excuse me, to 1110 macro. We have this short-term low being created just near an inefficiency. So if we're expecting higher prices, we want to see, right, liquidity be interacted with, returning into an inefficiency, and then look for that confirmation entry to continue long. That comes here as price runs out these equal lows now. So we're clearing sell side liquidity. We've cleared a short-term low. We're returning into a 5-minute inefficiency as well as a 1-minute. Right, so overlapping PD arrays here now. That area holds us. And now our first indication to look for longs is once this bearish fair value gap here gets traded up and through. Right, so this high is kind of the last high prior to that run on sell side. So as we look at this fair value gap, if we are to close above that, we would expect now this becomes an inversion. And this is how we can enter before seeing, right, really breaks in structure at these highs. We close above that fair value gap, close above this high, and you'll notice that we actually never return into that inversion, instead simply using the order block here. So the down close candles, right, if we were to highlight the whole set, it's here, but we're really just worried about the opening here of this candle. So you'll see that we leave that inversion. We also leave this little 1-minute fair value gap as well. Instead, we use that order block level paired with now our 830. So this level is our 830. And this is what we mean when we're talking about the 830 power of 3. To where we've manipulated below the 830 level, right here as well. So as we manipulate below the 830, get back above it, we would expect an area like this to offer us support. It does. And now we deliver into the first set of equal highs that we had created, ultimately that buy side here. And I mean, just look at that delivery, right? Oh, sorry. As we deliver into this buy side, look at that perfect closure. Right on that level, right? We spend time within the 5 minute, right? Kind of recalculating what his price wants to do. Notice it comes back down into the low of it. And then ultimately we leave that 5 minute fair value gap and continue to print higher. We spoke about this morning how if we can get above this 5 minute fair value gap, that would be really our indication that we can now target Monday's high, right? As well as just a midnight open. So as we get above this 5 minute, it makes perfect sense to look for this 5 minute fair value gap to now offer support as we trade back into it. And that is where we went ahead and took a long this afternoon that we could share with you guys here. So as we break up and above this 5 minute fair value gap, as we mentioned, we would expect that this area now offers us support. We want to see continued higher prices into this buy side objective that we had here. And for me, I really just took low hanging fruit, right? So 5 handles from this 5 minute fair value gap up into this daily fair value gap here. So as we trade up into the daily fair value gap, we go ahead and get out, right? Nice simple entry using that 5 minute fair value gap, stop below the down close candles, targeting that daily fair value gap. So for us, that was a nice little entry that we could see. And we continue to print higher. We're fine with missing that, but it was nice to see our objectives get delivered. As we continue to print now, you'll see, right, just consolidation. So we have this buy side objective, these set of equal highs. As we approach this set of equal highs, we have now engineered just more buy side. So that's all we're doing here. We're engineering more buy side, trying to get people to short these areas, right? Uninformed money, people that aren't necessarily sure what they're doing, before ultimately running up into that buy side. We clear that buy side. This is a new week opening gap. So notice how the algorithmic signatures are still here. Clearing buy side, holding the new week opening gap, quickly returning into a fair value gap. Remember, this whole shaded area is also the daily fair value gap. So notice as we leave the daily fair value gap, we leave a 1 minute. That 1 minute holds us. And then we finally get that delivery into Monday's high. So that was the objective all along. You can see price reaching for that, right? So until we're there, we're not trying to short in here at all. We're trying to get this objective, this buy side objective. All of this in here is just noise, right? We can still follow it. We see how these PD arrays are still being formed that we can use before that objective is met. Once we deliver into that objective, we then get the classic YouTube model, right? So short-term high being cleared in the form of these highs, as well as a daily high. We then have a break in structure at the low here, leaving behind that bearish fair value gap aligned with a new week opening gap. And now this here, just textbook. Right, so we give it a quick short YouTube model. This is the first time, right? We trade into that fair value gap, we hold, and then we just deliver into some internal range areas. So we clear out this short-term low. As well as reprice just into some inefficiencies in here. We still hold this low. So this was the sell side that was taken. We then, once again, after hitting that, trade higher, return to clear out internal range liquidity here. So if I was just to zoom out quick, you'll notice how after hitting Monday's high, you can really notice that was the objective, because then we once again enter that consolidation. To where after hitting that high, trading into this sell side, we just consolidate within this range and really within this daily fair value gap. So all this in here, right, we don't really want to spend too much time, because sure, there may be some setups, but you don't want to be trading within the range like this too often. Right, so we'll just kind of leave this for a future time. Right, we do have an obvious kind of turtle soup here that we can see. We have this 5 minute fair value gap we would expect to hold. Notice how we have this sell side liquidity sitting here right at 350 when we expect that injection of volatility. We run that sell side, hold the 5 minute, and then just return back up into that range, once again delivering perfectly into the high of the daily fair value gap. So all in all, pretty nice day, right? We'd say a classic kind of buy day here, starting in the morning, delivering into a buy side objective. So overall, as we kind of clear all this, the main objective was this daily high here, right? That's what price was reaching for. And you can really see that as price continues to deliver higher and higher. Right, we had a few clean setups in here, starting with the inversion off a new week opening gap. We have another bullish fair value gap here. Right, as we now get above the 1 hour, as we mentioned, we have BPR areas that we can use, inversion fair value gaps. Right, say you miss entries here, was price gives you more entries in here, well, now you can use inversion fair value gaps, or you can use order blocks, right? Just a lot of opportunities to go long. As you saw, we shared our opportunity here. Really wanted to see that 5 minute get traded up and through. So as we did get up and through that, a return into that should be met with support to deliver into our objective. Going forward now, I would like to see, let's hide this, still higher prices. Right, so we're holding this 1 hour fair value gap. I'd like to see that 1 hour fair value gap hold, deliver us into this high here. And then if we can get above that, just continue to target swing points and inefficiencies. Right, so we have, like, let's go to a 4 hour. This whole 4 hour fair value gap, if we can get into that, would be nice. You notice we fell short of consequent encroachment. So if we can get into the consequent encroachment, I'll look for that. Ultimately look for the high of it as well. But yeah, CPI this week, so we'll see if we can't get some type of acceleration and expansion. We'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, 9:25 Eastern. And we'll see what we get then. So until then, everybody, have a good night, and we will talk in the morning. Take care.